Hello and welcome. My name is Ted Polzer. I'm the Director of Product and Customer Support for Case Construction North America.
And I'm Brad Stemper, North American Light Equipment Product Lead for Case Construction.
Today we're going to be talking to you about 12 topics that are related to the total cost of ownership with all your machinery that's out there. Hopefully we can provide some information to you that you can use within your business and your strategies for oncoming business for next year, as well as reduce some of your maintenance and maximize your uptime.
We know that total cost of ownership, or TCO as the industry commonly refers to it as, is basically the full spectrum of costs that go into operating your equipment, from the original purchase all the way through until you resell that machine or trade it in on a new machine. So we want to touch on these topics and give you some additional thoughts that you might not have considered in the past. And I think we're ready to go.
Yeah, so we'll dive into the 12 items. And as we progress through those 12 items, a couple of things that to keep in mind is that you can ask us questions. It's down towards the bottom of the screen in the chat area. Feel free to add those and we'll address those towards the end of the session. So again, thanks and welcome for joining us. What we're going to do is dive into number one, which is reducing idle time. Probably one of the most common topics that you'll hear about and referred to normally because of fuel cost, right, and expense, which is certainly something that everyone needs to consider, even when fuel prices are low, such as they are today. However, it also has a lot to do with the emission systems that are on these machines. Years ago, where many of us would idle machines all the time, it was a normal routine or a practice. Today, with the new machine's emission systems, it's critical that you have higher exhaust gas temperatures to be able to make these systems function properly. So consider that this can help extend the duration between maintenance intervals of your emission system. And obviously, we can't all forecast when these machines will need that maintenance based on everybody's operational behaviors. So it's important for you to practice this, and that'll extend that duration between those. So let's go ahead and dive into the next one, talking a little bit about tires and tracks, right?
Absolutely. Ted kind of finished with understanding your idle time and being aware of what's happening around the machine. One of the things that you should also be doing is being aware of your undercarriage, your tracks, whether rubber or steel, and your tires. These components are pretty much the most costly wear item on the machine. And the more you do to be aware of their use and their application and maintaining their life expectancy, the more that you will save in total cost over the life of that machine. So when you look at tracks and tires, probably the best suggestion that I can make is to get yourself into a routine or get your crew into a routine of doing a daily walk around of the machine, kind of inspect or pre-operation inspection to ensure that that machine is ready to run. This maintenance or this inspection gives you the ability to have that constant reminder of what the machine looks like, any new dents, dings, or scratches, and it gives you that ability to kind of understand what's changed on the machine from the last time I operated. One of the things that it allows you to do is concentrate on those tires and tracks and make sure that things like dirt, debris, rocks are out of that undercarriage or out from underneath that rotating group. You can inspect the rubber components to make sure that you don't have any large nicks and scratches or cuts that might lower the life expectancy or even upset your operating day that day or in the near future. So that review of the machine gives you that ability to kind of understand and be ready for work that day. One of the other things that I'd like to mention is that along with reviewing the machine, it's always good practice to review your job site. Do a walk around of your site. Make sure that you take note of things that can damage or potentially hinder your operation with those tracks and tires. Make sure you avoid things like rebar or roots that might damage those components. And then also with operation, you can take note of best practices for that operation to extend those tires and undercarriage life. Avoid counter rotation, avoid side work on slopes, and again, avoid any concrete or blacktop obstructions that might really take a hit on those rubber components.
That's great, Brad. And as you mentioned, there's opportunities here. If you can catch these types of opportunities early, it's going to reduce your cost, because if it's a simple tire repair, right, that gets neglected, it could result in a major tire repair or replacement. So these are all things to consider. The other thing to consider is understanding the utilization of the equipment that you have on site in your fleet. And there's multiple ways you can do this: by physically being there and observing machines in operation on your sites, or remotely through the use of telematics, or cases SiteWatch program. And SiteWatch gives you that opportunity to really dive in to take a look at how well is that machine being utilized, where is it being utilized, as well as when is it going to need maintenance. In addition to asking, really the biggest question is maybe why is a machine being underutilized, which is probably the most expensive thing, right? You know, here you're making either payments or you're renting a machine, something along those lines, and it's just sitting idle. This is a great opportunity to talk to your operators, because just a simple question to your operators may uncover something that maybe they're not familiar with some of the operation on that machine. Maybe they don't know how to switch control patterns in the skid steer, and they're not comfortable enough asking that question, and therefore the machine is sitting idle for a while. That being said, when you dive into that, the ops manual really is your best resource. It's going to give you a ton of really good information and all these settings and features that we include in the machines. And as all of you are aware, these machines have grown in their technology dramatically in the last couple of years. So with that being said, make sure that you are coaching and talking to your operators so that they understand how to maximize all of these different parts and pieces that we offer with the machinery.
Excellent point, Ted. That takes us to point number 4. Point number 4 is about attachments and utilizing the machine to its fullest capability. When you buy a machine, whether it's one of the machines behind us or any other of a number of construction pieces of equipment, you're going to buy that machine to do a primary job, whether it's using the blade or using a bucket, or maybe even a specialty attachment that machine is going to be operating. But we want you to consider, or it's an opportunity to consider, additional attachments that you could use with that machine to increase its utilization. That machine, that original duty, is going to earn you the most amount of money, and you're justifying the purchase of that machine around that base operation, okay? But those additional attachments afford you the ability to bid more to the job. Maybe you're expanding your realm of expertise and building out to what you can do on particular jobs and remaining on the job more, getting more payback and more revenue from that job. It'll also allow you to bid additional jobs throughout the year. Or even in some cases for the landscapers out there, it might allow you to keep working throughout the whole year. You operate primarily in seasonal months of summer, spring, and fall, but maybe acquiring a snow removal attachment will allow you to engage winter operation and that seasonal activity of snow removal for companies in your nearby area. So you want to drive that machine to create more utilization and pay back more. And as it becomes more utilized, you're going to see that versatility increase.
And that leads us into that next topic is how do we make sure that we're maximizing the use of the machine when it is in use? And operator modes comes into play. And again, like I said, the complexity of the machines has really grown in an effort to be able to provide you as an operator or owner different options based on your application or maybe today's use of that machine. And it's critical to understand what all these different modes mean. Our wheel loaders offer very different modes. Our excavators have different types of settings as well for throttle, as well as pressure and speed, things like that. So really either work with read through your ops manual, and if you don't have the answers that you really need, work with your local case dealer because they're familiar with these features. And they're also going to be able to show you how it can benefit you and put dollars back in your pocket that you were losing before.
Excellent. So next point that I'll be talking about is machine control or precision construction. Primarily, think of it as another feature or another attachment on the machine to enable you to do more work or do more work effectively. Okay. Machine control, often considered 2D or 3D blade control or excavate systems on excavators, really comes down to making a good operator better. Okay. To where they can get more efficiency out of the machine, run less passes, put fewer hours on the machine, and basically avoid over excavation or under digging. That later needs to be revisited and fixed for one reason or another. So machine control gives you that capability to basically tailor that machine to more precise operations. There's technology involved, and when that happens, as some of you probably already are aware, you're going to be, it's going to be a higher priced option on the machine or a higher priced feature. But what we often see with machine control is payback for those features because of the increased efficiency and the lowering of actual wear and tear on the machine. You're paying back those systems rather quickly, sometimes in as few as 1 or 2 jobs. So it's something to consider for machine control and precision construction to equip your machine with it. Additionally, precision construction isn't always the blade or the bucket guidance system. You should also look at precision construction being the technologies that simply enhance efficiency, such as a payload system on a wheel loader or a skid steer or compact wheel loader.
So, Brad, let's talk a little bit about renting, leasing, or owning, and which one's right for certain customers.
Absolutely. So renting, owning, leasing the machines, when you look at acquiring a machine, you're going to be looking at primarily one of those three facets of ownership or utilization of the machines. When we look at it, the owning, the payments on the machine tends to be the highest cost, right? Over the time and the life of the machine that you're going to own it. And so total cost of ownership really incorporates that as a key facet that you should be considering. And it's obvious to look at a sticker on the machine and understand what the cost of that is, but you've got options to how to procure that machine to fit your needs. Let's take a look at each of them. Ownership. Ownership, you're buying the machine. You're putting that machine to use for an expected period of time, for expected number of hours, whatever it may be. And then at the end of it, you want to take care of that machine so you can go ahead and get the value out of it if you resell it or trade it in on the next new machine that you purchase. So ownership gives you that confidence that you own the machine. It's your responsibility. You know what you have and how you can be used. You learn the machine and you optimize its operation. Okay. It also allows you tax benefits by having that machine available for write-off on an annual basis. So that's an opportunity. Ownership is an opportunity. Other options are lease or rent. Rent is where it's the opposite end of ownership. You're only taking ownership of that machine, or you're only using that machine for a brief period of time. Think of it as supplementing your fleet for a specific need, whether that's a short-term or even a mid or long-term need. You're taking responsibility for that machine and you're paying someone else that is the owner of it for that time of use, right? And rental gives you the ability to not create a lot of cash flow demand on your business. You're going to have that value and you're going to understand the payback specific for the jobs and applications that you're using it in for that time period. Leasing is kind of in between. It's kind of a hybrid of the two. Leasing gives you the ability to get that brand new machine, often including maintenance and support contracts to make sure that machine maintains perfect operation within a brief or a limited time frame, maybe 2, 3, or 4 years. And that lease allows you to have that confidence that that new machine is going to run for you. It's got maintenance usually. It's got warranty that's covering it to make sure that you can depend on that machine day in and day out.
That's good. And since we're talking about different opportunities to purchase new equipment, let's talk about what features should you have now on those machines. And, let's use auxiliaries as an example. For those of you that have a strong growth strategy for your business and maybe you want to engage in a different space, of the actual applications that you touched today, start considering what machine type features that you're going to need to grow into that space. Auxiliary hydraulics on a skid steer, standard for the standard flow. However, we do offer high flow, and that high flow gives you that additional capability to be able to utilize that machine even further. The other one to think about is even on an excavator. We get several customers that purchase an excavator with one-way hydraulics on the auxiliaries for running a hammer as an example, but we offer other types of auxiliary hydraulic systems that would allow you to potentially add a thumb to a machine. So maybe today you're not doing many brushing operations, but you pick up a job and you're going to need to brush out some material. It's awfully nice to have a thumb already on the machine without all the expense of completely replumbing a machine. So these are all things to really consider. And as you look through the different features and benefits that we offer, again, talk to your case dealer. Your salesperson that you work with is going to be able to provide you some examples locally of how other customers might be utilizing these different benefits and features associated with that machine. Now that leads us into the next portion is proper sizing of the attachments. A lot of bucket options out there, right? And it can be confusing. One of the biggest things is that we generally see is attachments are too big for a machine. And the reason for that is we always have changing conditions, right? If it's a real hard, dry type soil, you may need a toothed bucket that's smaller so that you can increase your breakout force. On an excavator, as an example, we want to keep that arm and boom and bucket function moving all the time and not stalling out. So a smaller bucket can actually help you be a lot more productive with that excavator by not overloading the machine and consistently keeping it moving so that your production is there. So these are all things that you need to really look into. And if you're having challenges with it, again, your case dealer is a great resource because they may offer a new type of an attachment or some sort of other solution for your exact issue that you have. So rather than you trying to hunt for a solution, we may have one right away. So with that said, let's talk a little bit about planned maintenance and Procare, Brett.
Absolutely. So Ted just talked to you a little bit about equipping the machine with the right features, the right size attachment, or even the right size machine for your job. So as you get into that, one thing to consider at that original equipment acquisition or purchase is understanding the value of a planned maintenance contract. Planned maintenance contracts give you the ability to go ahead and make that assurance up front that that machine is going to be maintained and operational, okay, during that life of operation or use for your job. And so it's a little bit of investment up front, but it gives you the ability to kind of fix it and forget it, right? You put it off on the side burner, you contract with the dealer to go ahead and get that maintenance done timely, on time, and with trained or factory trained technicians. So the dealer's going to be most appropriate to do that maintenance. They're going to know the machine intimately. They're going to have the right fluids and the right components. They're not going to skimp on time or the actual maintenance procedure. And they're even going to be able to advise you on additional things that you might need to look at. Maybe you've got wear components that are getting to the end of their life. Maybe you've got fault codes that you didn't even understand or realize were there. They're going to be able to look at that and make sure that machine is running at peak performance. And as we all know, when that machine is running at peak performance, it's earning you the most money. And so total cost of ownership is also about how profitable that machine can be for you. One of the things Case does is for heavy machinery, we give you Case Procare. Case Procare is 3 years of telematics, 3 years of factory warranty, and 3 years, 2,000 hours of planned maintenance with that machine, giving you the assurance that that machine will be operational for you. And Procare is available on crawler dozers, graders, excavators, and full-size wheel loaders. So make sure that you're considering that planned maintenance contract on those machines and make sure that you've got that assurance of operation.
Yeah, and on our light machines that may not carry the Procare badge, the thing that you can also do is work with your dealer to identify maintenance contracts. We have like a lot of flexible type programs for extended warranty, maintenance type programs and all that. And these programs are very beneficial to you because it really allows you then to work with the dealer to schedule this type of downtime so that you can have an organized approach to this. And that way, immediately, if you need some sort of service work done to your machine, it's not exactly when you need the machine, right? Your dealer can know what maybe your hours of operation are. They might be able to touch that machine when you're not utilizing it to its maximum potential. So with that said, that kind of moves us into remanufacturing. So now we have a machine. Let's say we're outside of the warranty period. What are some of the other things that I can do to reduce my TCO related to these machines? Well, remanufactured components is a great way to be able to save up to 40% of a new cost of parts in addition to stronger warranties. So we actually offer several reman components through your Case Construction dealers. And a lot of these same components are the ones that we're using on our new assembly line as well, the same type, makes, and models. So any improvements that we make on our new machines, these are also benefits and features that we work with our remanufacturing team to include in their rebuilding process and remanufacturing process of those components. If you have questions on this, make sure that you reach out to your Case dealer because your Case dealer can give you these options to understand what might be the best solution for your business. And with that said, let's maybe talk a little bit about emissions.
Yeah, absolutely. So carrying the thought of engines and reman through, let's talk about emissions. Today, we know that emissions control is a factor, an aspect of our daily life, right? All new machines that apply, basically the larger equipment, 50 horsepower-ish and up, all have emission systems on them in one way or another to control those bad exhaust particles or nitrous oxides. So emissions is something that you need to keep in mind as you acquire new machines. And having those machines acquired with an emission system simply means that you need to understand how that emission system works on your machine. There are so many different variables that are integrated into the different OEMs out there, and each system operates a little bit differently, even though the systems that are actually doing the control in the back end, after treatment wise, are similar in how they work. make sure that you're consulting your operator's manual, understanding what the codes and what operation procedures are, what you might need to do for one system versus another system on your fleet. It's very likely that you've got different things going on, and those different things are basically on your fleet. Those different functions might be different by machine type or by who's operating them. So make sure you understand what the display is telling you, the notifications, maybe an alarms that are going on. As it relates to case and emissions, we followed two basic principles. We've tried to eliminate DPF in as many situations as possible. DPF, or diesel particulate filters, basically require extra fuel burn, extra heat to burn off the particulate matter, and potentially downtime for operation. You might need to pull that machine off to the side to make sure that machine has the space that it can run through its full forced regeneration. So we've tried to eliminate that in as many machines as possible, but we know that can't always happen. So when we broached or came into the emissions discussion, we approached each customer with the principle that we want to impact their operation as little as possible, okay? So by doing that, we're impacting their operation by removing DPF on many of our machines, or only applying SCR on the larger machines to allow those engines to really run at peak performance. But on the lighter equipment, we've successfully avoided for many of our machines the need to do anything with emissions. They're basically maintenance free. That means there's no SCR system, no additional fluids to put into the machine, and there's no DPF particulate filter that you need to either regen, use more fuel on, or costly maintenance down the road. So when you look at emissions, the ending statement is make sure that you spend time to look at your operator's manual and understand how your specific systems work to make sure that you're operating as much as possible without downtime.
Well, good. And I appreciate everyone's time. That kind of wraps up our TCO 12 hit list that we like to talk about. We're going to be moving into the Q&A session of the event. But with that, I'd like to, again, thank you for your time. I'm Ted.
And I'm Brad.
And we'll see you
in the field.
Good morning, everybody. They said they were going to do that Bill and Ted bit there at the end, and I didn't believe them. But good work on sneaking that one in, guys. And thank you for your time this morning. Excellent discussion. First question that came in, Ted, you had touched on reman. First question that has come in, where can I get reman parts?
Reman parts are available at any of our Case Construction dealer locations. They offer several different major components and even minor components. So anything from hydrostatic pumps, hydraulic pumps, transmissions, axles. It's really worth investigating with your dealer, and they can set you up with the availability of the components you're looking for.
There's two questions that have come in here, and I'm going to lump two of them together. Ricardo asks or makes a statement and then asks a question. Biggest mistake I always see is low idle while doing small work. What is the fuel cost difference at 75% or low idle, or what are the fuel savings? Ultimately, what he's asking is, what are the fuel savings or fuel differences when operating at lower idle speeds?
It's a great question. One of the things you can consider with this as well is that when you have an engine maybe that's running at a lower speed, you may be working that engine harder, and it actually may be burning more fuel than you think. Sometimes it's actually better to increase the engine speed because it's operating within its peak power band, and that will give you additional control depending on the type of machine. Obviously, we have a lot of variables, whether it's a hydrostatic transmission or a regular transmission. But what I would do is experiment and try to track that, because even the conditions can be different. It might be very specific to what you're actually doing. But again, like I said, sometimes what you'll find is you can actually obtain better fuel consumption or equal fuel consumption running a little higher RPM because the engine's in its power band zone.
And a second question that came in that ties to that, but from a different person, they have asked, I thought that idling for diesel engines was a good thing. What has changed? I think you touched on it a little bit in the initial discussion, but maybe hit that one again.
Yeah, absolutely. When we talk about that, I mean, our emission systems today need high exhaust temperatures to be able to perform all of the chemical, changes that happen in the exhaust. But with that higher exhaust gas temperature helps everything in that emission system in the way that it's designed to be able to trap the particulate matter either better or handle it in a better way. Back in the day when we didn't have any emission systems on it, it was okay to idle an engine. I mean, you'll hear some people say even that back then wasn't really good for an engine because of the exhaust gas temperatures were not seating, piston rings and things like that to the level that they needed to be. So there's a lot of variables to that question. I would strongly always urge everybody to try to stay away from excessive idle, no matter if it's a tier 3 or a tier 4 emissions machine, just because of the design of the components.
And I'll add in something real quick, that a lot of the machines today automatically have idle management tools that are built into the cab and the control systems that are included in them. You can go ahead and set an idle speed based on your application. Obviously, in much colder climates, the machine is required to idle a little bit and maybe maintain a normal operating temperature. You can go ahead and adjust your low idle up a little bit. There's other applications where you don't want that machine to idle, as we were talking about. You can set an auto shutdown timer that basically mandates, or the machine will automatically shut itself down if it's not being used for your predetermined time, whether that's 2 minutes, 5 minutes, or 30 minutes. So we encourage you, again, to reference your operator's manual for your equipment. Look for those things like auto idle or idle management tools, and go ahead and use them to benefit from burning less fuel and controlling how many hours are accumulated on your machine.
Next question is another combination statement question. The secret is to prevent long machine downtime by preventing failure or progressive failure. What solutions are you providing in this regard?
I can handle that. So one of the things that you can do, obviously one of the biggest mystery areas is always in the hydraulic system, right? We don't always know what's going on inside of your machine. And, we offer different oil type analysis programs that our case dealers can help you with. And when you really dive into that, the reason being is it's about a trend. It's just like measuring undercarriage. It's not just measuring at the end of its life to know that it's done. It's to watch that periodically throughout the life of it. Oil sampling works the same way. You take periodic oil samples, and that way we can probably pick up on something that is just starting to occur before you ever have a catastrophic type failure or a major rebuild need. So the oil analysis, we especially combined with Procare. If you're on the Procare package, talk to your dealer about adding System Guard as well, because the System Guard program will, take those samples, and it's going to give you an opportunity to understand the condition and the health of that machine. And this also, sometimes when you're thinking about maybe trading machine, if you get to the end of your lease agreements or things like that, if the machine, all your oil analysis are really good and clean and positive, it's probably going to be a good machine for a long period of time.
This is the part of our broadcast where I'll remind you, if we don't get to your question today, the guys will be following up with you after the broadcast to answer any questions that we don't hit. We're going to take questions for about the next 10 minutes or so. As a reminder, there's a small chat box in the lower right hand of your screen as you look at the webcast here. Ask the questions and we'll pose them to the guys as we're going. Next question here, Brad, are telematics retrofittable?
Yes, telematics is retrofittable. Basically, any machine with an engine on it can really contribute or benefit to the telematics system that your fleet might be using. And there are even systems out there that allow you to put a non-engine equipped unit, a telematics system on say attachments for easier monitoring and understanding where they are. But in the end, telematics is retrofittable because essentially you're looking for an engine signal that the engine's running, so you can track key on or engine operation and the hours that the engine's accumulating. You need the antenna to communicate where it is on the face of the earth. And then once you've got that kind of covered, you're up and running with telematics. So you can put it on very old equipment, or as you progress now into the current machines or recently produced machines, you're also going to have capabilities to track additional parameters, maybe that come from the factory already set up for the telematics system that you're purchasing, or what's called J1939 standard, which are a group of telematics parameters or engine data or machine data that is already set up in kind of a standard so it can easily communicate with any telematics device.
Very good. Next question that has come in, and this is a question that we see quite a bit in our social media channels. And I'll throw this out to either of you. If I delete the SCR system, does that affect my warranty?
I can certainly take that. And yes, it has an impact on it. I mean, as an OEM producer of equipment, we're obligated to continually make sure that the machines actually meet the emission standards that are set out there. So for us, when we're working on it, it needs to be equipped, just like it was the day that it left the factory. And that also helps with all of our tools and things like that, because our specialty laptops that we hook up to machines with, they need to be able to see all the components. It knows how the machine was equipped from the factory. So when it sees major changes in there, it can actually create a lot of diagnostic challenges for you as a customer. If there is something going on with a machine, especially if it's a difficult diagnostic to perform, it's really difficult to understand. Is it being created by the absence of these components, or is it something else?
Excellent. Does the inclusion of machine control affect resale value on equipment? And that's another big piece of the total cost of ownership discussion.
Absolutely. So it really depends on how the machine control system or precision system is installed on the machine. Some systems have a lot of removable components. A lot of customers choose to just carry those with them. They're used to how they operate. They're used to the settings that display provides them. They might be using it in a specific way that's unique to their operation instead of the general use case for that machine control or precision system. But if the machine control stays on the machine, that technology does carry a lot of value through the life of its operation. And if it's maintained well and taken care of, it can add value to that machine. And you do see some of that value transfer over into the machine resale if it's included at that time.
Very good. Another telematics related question. If a contractor has telematics on a machine, but it is out in the field, can it be set up or started without being brought into the shop? I think what he's asking there is about remote diagnostic or remote. What can you tell without actually being at the machine?
Sure. Telematics is progressing quickly, and Ted, feel free to add on to this at the end. But with telematics and its adoption more and more every day by customers, their request to engage the machine differently, add more features, add more benefits, we are progressing to the point where more connected machines are available in the field to do more with. So whether that's remote diagnostics, which is constantly in evolution, or simply engaging the machine in a different way so you can be in communication with that customer or that operator, there are different things going on right now that'll keep progressing for telematics and how you utilize it. Normally, it's not as easy as setting it up and turning it on in the field, but based on today's telematics offering, that can be accomplished too.
And once you have it enabled, as Brad was mentioning too, the more modern machines that we produce, the interesting part about this is that the modems really work very well with the CAN bus communication systems that are installed in these machines. So what that allows us to do is remotely, we can have a technician really dive into and look at many of the different parameters that machine has going on. We can actually target exactly when maybe you've experienced a fault code. We can look back and see exactly what was happening with that machine at that point in time. Now, obviously, data privacy is a serious thing for us as well. So this is an agreement that typically happens between you and your dealership. But granting your dealership access to take a look at that data can help you dramatically, because the more prepared that a technician is before they ever leave the dealership, the better the chance that you're going to get that machine repaired on that first visit, which is going to minimize your downtime.
Very good. Another question that came in here, and Brad, you touched on Procare well earlier. Are there costs associated with the planned maintenance portion of Procare?
Good question. So planned maintenance through Procare covers all basic and essential services for the machine that it's equipped on. So traditionally, for the majority of our machines, it's every 500 hours, but it covers everything within that 500-hour service. Now, that doesn't mean that all applications are identical. We know that customers in different applications have different needs. They might need to double their services, or they might be using the machine less frequently and they need to kind of have an annual service. Those are discussions that you should have with your dealership about your specific application and what you've recognized for your specific environments that you're running in. Maybe they're corrosive. Maybe you put the machine into some water by trenching or dredging sometimes. Whatever it is, make sure that you have that conversation if you've had special service needs in the past, and discuss that about what should be covered within a planned maintenance program through Procare or after.
Thank you, guys. And I'll remind everyone at home, we'll take a few more questions here for about the next 5 minutes or so. The next question that has come in is regarding machine control. can I put machine control on older equipment?
Yes, machine control can get installed on older equipment, but there's one thing that you need to understand. There's a difference between an indicate system and a true machine control or guidance system. Indicate is showing you where everything is positioned, and it's kind of leading you in the control movements that you need to make to stay on plan. Where guidance is literally taking control of the machine in some aspects, not complete aspects. It's not automation, but it is taking control of certain aspects of the machine and positioning a bucket or limiting movement of a bucket or positioning a blade to kind of stay on plan. With advanced machinery and the development of electronic controls or EH controls or pilot systems, there will be more opportunity to put more of the machine guidance on newer equipment, because older equipment, being mechanically driven or pilot driven, require more adoption of the hydraulics or the control systems that literally move the blade or the bucket. So keep that in mind. It might be a little bit more cost prohibitive, or there might be a lot more cost involved with retrofitting an older unit, but it is something to investigate based on the vintage of the machine you're running.
Thanks, Brad. Ted, you touched a little bit earlier on the importance of data ownership and data security. A question has come in about whether or not historical data available via telematics has an effect on resale value. What do you say there?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, tools such as SiteWatch gives you as an owner an opportunity to be able to print out a machine history report that details, all of the things that machine has seen. What is its average load that it's been seeing over its life? All kinds of different parameters that are in that report. And that can be a very handy report, especially if you're selling, maybe not back to a dealer, but if you're selling just to another person in the area. It's kind of a point that brings a lot of reassurance, right? Especially with Procare, because you know that your maintenance has been done. And you also know that, you using a machine history report, you can basically show that the machine has not had any major issues, or it's been operated, well within its normal operating range of torque and demand.
One of the last questions here that's come in, and I'm going to take an assumption that this is related to Procare. Some machines come with telematics included. Some customers didn't activate. When does activation start? I'm finding some didn't get informed and have not activated. So I think the question there is, when does that telematics period for Procare start?
So generally telematics, when we enable that, especially during a Procare machine, because Procare machines come equipped with a modem from the factory, and that's something that's initialized at the dealership the day that they perform what we call pre-delivery. So prior to your picking the machine up. So if it's something that you're curious about, make sure that you engage with your dealer on, because if it's a Procare unit, it's a simple opportunity for them to turn this on and then gain you access into the SiteWatch area so that you can monitor and start taking advantage of all that data that your machine is generating.
Does Procare cost anything?
Procare does not cost anything. It's included in the purchase of the machine. It is something that is kind of built in from the beginning, so there's not an additional cost increase or a line item on your invoice that necessarily identifies a cost with it. It does include the warranty, like I said, planned maintenance, and telematics for up to 3 years of operation.
And then this is the last question that we'll take publicly. If we didn't answer your questions here throughout the course of the broadcast, Brad and Ted will follow up with you individually with answers to those questions. Another question that came in from the field, and then I'm going to expand on that a little bit because I'm curious of the answer. Does telematics have warnings of fluid levels or required action? And I would expand on that to just say, what kind of actionable information can a system like SiteWatch give you that can help you in your daily operation?
Yeah, so SiteWatch can give you a lot of really good information as to, where is idle time, right? We talked about that in the TCO 12. So, how often is the machine being idled? And when it is being ran, is it being run at 100% engine load constantly then? And this, again, kind of comes back to one of the other questions about fuel consumption as well. You can monitor your fuel consumption, and you might be able to take that data and just by looking at it, determine that the machine operates best at 75% throttle for our applications with the attachment that's on the machine. and that's real savings back to you. There's all kinds of other information in there that you can also take a look at, such as like your coolant temperature of the machines, or even hydraulic temperature. These are all factors that you could see where maybe you're doing something different, or maybe it's a new operator and all of a sudden temperatures are starting to climb. It could mean that maybe this is an operator that's not used to run that machine, and they're holding the hydraulic circuits over relief, longer than they're designed for, which can add heat to the system. So it really gives you a lot of opportunities to analyze that data and come up with great conclusions that, again, was going to put some money back in your pocket by either preventing downtime or allowing you to maintain something prior to any major type downtime issues.
I'll even add in one more comment about the telematics and the utilization of it is have fun with it, right? Get out, experience the website, get on and see. You're going to identify specific things that you remember from operating in the past, or maybe pain points that you've had. And if you would have simply known a little bit of information about it, it might have prevented what happened, or you've often wondered, how can I improve XYZ operation? So get out, enjoy it, have fun with it in the sense that you can explore on there and understand what reports, what data parameters are available, and kind of test the limits of what kind of information you can gain from it.
Brad, Ted, thank you gentlemen both for your time today. Thank you at home for tuning in and spending this holiday week Tuesday with us. Just a couple of notes. One, this will be the last of these webcasts we do this year. We will be announcing additional webcasts in early 2021. So stay tuned to kce.com, Case social media channels, and we'll be sharing those additional broadcasts with you coming forth. And we're going to play you out here today with a job site that we visited earlier this summer out in Nebraska, large-scale residential site developer who's going to talk a little bit about the benefits that machine control has provided them in developing quite an expansive site. Thank you for attending today, and we look forward to doing this again soon. Have a great Thanksgiving. Thank you.
When we got here, it was just an open lake, trees all the way around, had a lot of trees to tear out, grading and moving a lot of material to get to where we are now, and a lot of time to get it to the stage it's in now.
To excavate a lake from scratch, where the lot design drives the lake design. We have the Leica grade control system, and I can't imagine operating these machines without the grade control system. The old days of the engineers coming out and staking grade stakes and stuff, it's so difficult to get the surveyors out here in a timely manner.
This came out within 3 to 4 inches of exact grade, and that's even driving on it.
I can't imagine functioning and running an excavating business without grade control nowadays.
We started out on the 2050. We put the grade control, and it's automatic on the blade.
It's got power. I like the power of it. I like the traction of it. I really love the grade control on it. That is really handy. I mean, once you get down to your fine tuning stuff, you just click that in and let it take over.
These housing pads, we've got a front slope, top slope, back slope. I can come around here with the blade. As he's dumping with that 580, I can strike it right off to grade. I can define all my roads, and we're on grade all the time. We don't have to have engineers out here putting stakes in and trying to battle with that kind of stuff. We're moving all the time. We started out with grade control into 2050 thinking that's all we needed.
I could be on a side hill, so I mean, I've got to dig up on a grade and load these trucks. Well, if I don't get that to grade, if I underdig it or leave too much, well then he's got a heck of a time trying to, fill in all that or push how much material to me.
If the 2050's over here and you're constantly calling them back, hey, strike me off grade, strike me off grade. And if we're digging on the side, all these shorelines now, I can dig all to grade with this machine and be perfect, spot on. The 3D control, when you're digging over an edge, is unbelievable.
It really saves us a lot of time because I can get it pretty much to grade finished by the time he gets there with the bulldozer to, completely finish it out.
we have to dig out in the water, so you're digging blind. So now I know exactly where I'm at. I can have the bucket completely underwater and I can dig grade, come up to my bank and pull in. There's so many different views in this screen that you can use that make it so user-friendly. Once you load your program, it's there. Once you decide what screens you like to look at, or you can split screen, that's where you're going to be at. In the morning you get in and turn it on and away you go.
So it's definitely saved us a lot of time and, fuel and, efficiency and all that.
So to me, it's priceless out here. I wouldn't even know how to operate without knowing where I'm at all the time.